Good evening and welcome to Transition Talks Tuesdays. My name's Tim Markle with the Southern Regional Center, and this section of Transition Talks, these sessions of Transition Talks is being done in partnership with Sauk Prairie School District with funding for simultaneous Spanish interpretation by the Wisconsin Integrated Transition Planning Project and the Sauk Prairie School District. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about the post-secondary transition plan, as well as some things you might need to know from higher education for higher education. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We also will hopefully have time at the end to unmute and take some questions at that point as well. But it is now my pleasure to introduce my co-conspirator in crime, I guess, out of the Sauk Prairie School Districts, Liz Kennedy. And Liz, if you want to do a short introduction to yourself, I'm going to make sure that I can get the PowerPoint pulled up and then I'll share it and run the screen for you.
Great, thank you. I'm Liz Kennedy, and I'm the transition coordinator for the Sauk Prairie School District. This is my 20th year with Sauk Prairie School District, and I have been working with Tim on and off over the last several years and wanted to get a way to share transition information with families and students and staff in a way that would be accessible. So I'm very happy that we have the interpretation for our families who are Spanish speakers, and that we have our guest, Brian Bird from UW-Platteville, so that we can also talk a little bit about financial aid. There's some things that are still brewing for that, but I did want to talk to you about what we do here in Sauk Prairie, with the disclaimer that this is how Sauk Prairie does transition. Doesn't mean that it's the same for every district or the same for your district. So if you're joining from a different district. So tonight we're going to be talking about Sauk Prairie transition, getting ready for post-secondary transition plans, and a little bit about financial aid. Next slide. So when I talk with people about transition, students, families, I kind of want them to take into account, when you're planning something, can you ever imagine doing it without a map or directions or something to get you there? It's hard to get there if you don't have a plan. So what we want to do, you can go to the next slide, Tim, thanks. So what I want to do is focus on goals. We want the students to identify their interests, their strengths, their preferences, and the transition planning is the map that we use to help the students achieve their goals once they're done with high school. Next slide, please. So to kind of talk a little bit about the law, there's the IDEA law of 2004, and that stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So by the age when a student is going to turn 14, that's Wisconsin law, federal law says 16, the IEP must contain a statement of transition services that every student's IEP must include measurable post-secondary goals, course of study, that's either an envisioned or an anticipated course of study, the classes that they're going to take, and then transition services and activities. This is the post-secondary transition plan, the PTP. Next slide. So when I look at transition, my vision is that it's a backwards process, that we want to start with where they want to be, what the outcome is. So if they want to be a doctor, if they want to be a surgeon, if they want to be a teacher, if they want to be a diesel mechanic, if they want to be in the military, what is it we need to look at in planning? So what we say is we look at the outcomes, and then we take a look at what's their employment goal. Do they have vocational educational needs? Do they have other post-secondary education needs? Do they have independent living needs? And do they need community participation support in learning how to access the community in order to achieve their transition goals when they're done with high school? Next slide. So transition plans, they should be individual and they should evolve with the student. It shouldn't remain static or the same with the same activities year after year. And it shouldn't be the same things for every student. There may be some overlap when we're working with students, like they might have similar interests, but the idea is that as the student grows and develops, their transition planning should grow and change with them. So if they change their mind complaints about something, we change what we're doing and what we're planning for them. We want to make sure that we're not doing the same thing every year, because as their ideas and their thoughts develop, so too do their activities and the things that they need to do. So different transition pieces, as I mentioned in the post-secondary plan, is measurable post-secondary goals, a course of study, transition services, transition assessment, and then near the end of their time with us, we do what's called a summary of performance. And we use that for seniors and those who are exiting at 21. So a measurable post-secondary goal, and some of you may have seen these PTPs that are talked about at the IEP. We talk about training or education. So some students, they might have specific vocational or a career field. They might have independent living skills training that they need. They might need a vocational training program. Maybe they need a youth or an adult apprenticeship or on-the-job training. There's a program called Job Corps. There are four-year college and universities. There's technical colleges. There's two-year colleges. There's technical schools, like, say, maybe diesel driving. There's continuing and adult education. So training and education encompasses a lot of different things. The other goal that we need to include in our post-secondary transition plans is a goal on employment. So that can be a paid job. So maybe it's competitive employment, and competitive means that they are in an integrated setting with other people. They're not in a segregated setting that's set apart from other people. So they're integrated within the community with other people on a job. Sometimes people need to start with supported employment. Maybe they need job coaching. Maybe they need somebody to come in and work with the employer to put some accommodations in place for them. Or maybe we have our occupational therapists come in and say, oh, well, this might help. We also want to look at integrated employment all the time. There may be unpaid employment that they're going to do. They may volunteer, or they might be in a training capacity for a while, or they might choose to go into the military. The third area that we also need to consider for all of our students is independent living when that's appropriate. So is that adult living services? Is it daily living? Is it independent living or community participation? It could be financial. It could be working on transportation options and supports, connections to mental health, driver's education. And I know driver's education can be scary for families, but if they want to try and get their driver's license, there are many different ways that they can do that. They can sign up for a Zoom class. They can sign up for an online class. Some driving companies are also offering face-to-face. So if you have questions about driver's education, please let me know, and I'd be happy to try and connect you with the right resource. So those are some of the areas that we look at for independent living. Next slide, please. Other areas to consider are healthcare needs, financial planning for the future. Tim, can you click on that link there for me? And this will be up on the website eventually. It's okay. So what it is I share with families a checklist for independent living for post-secondary purposes. And so it talks about different areas. So there's like home living, there is household and money management, transportation, law and politics, community involvement, personal safety and interpersonal relationships, and self-advocacy. So we will share that on the website. And it's kind of a checklist for you to look at. Yes or no. Can they do that? No, they can't, or it's not something that we need to worry about. One piece I do want to talk about that I think is really important for students as they are transitioning into the adult world is that self-advocacy piece. It's very easy for us to take over, right? I mean, as teachers, as parents, it's easy for us to maybe sometimes speak for the students, but when they get a chance to voice their own thoughts and opinions, it really does help them grow and develop. And when they are going on to post-secondary, the colleges don't want to hear from me. They don't want to hear from mom or dad or the guardians. They want that young adult to be able to voice their own opinions, their own thoughts, and advocate for themselves, for their accommodations and what they feel that they need. So we want to make sure that we're developing a strong sense of self-advocacy in our young adults as they're moving through school. And that can start as simple as, when you take them to the doctor's office, have them introduce themselves, tell them who they are, give their birth date. Instead of, I did that with my children when I took them to the doctor, I'd say, well, you tell them, you know who you are. You know what your birthday is, and if they don't, you can write it on a piece of paper and they can use that as a prompt as they're going through. Something as simple as that, or ordering their own food at McDonald's or at the restaurant, or, ordering what they want when they go places, giving them part of the grocery list to go and find it. So just ways for them to start developing that strong self-esteem and that strong self-empowerment. Next slide, please. So the post-secondary transition plan is something that we work on. Most of the case managers, not all, will start the IEP with the post-secondary transition plan with the thought of, we look at the outcome, where is it that they want to be? And then we go through and talk about that. And that kind of helps make sense with the IEP and why we have the goals that we have and why we're doing the things that we're doing, what kinds of accommodations that they need. So every student in special education who's going to be turning 14 during the time frame of their IEP, and typically that's around 7th grade, they have to have a post-secondary transition plan. And as I said earlier, in federal law, it's the age of 16, but Wisconsin was super smart and did it at 14. It really does make a big difference to start it earlier than as opposed to waiting until they're like sophomores in high school. This plan should be based on the students' identified interests, strengths, and preferences. And we help students explore those by providing them different activities while they're here in high school and having them take different classes. Sometimes it's just as important to find out the classes and the things that they don't like as it is to find out the things that they do like. So I've had students say, I want to be a welder, but they get into welding classes and they don't either like the noise, they don't like the smell, they don't like that it might be messy. So we change and we look, okay, what else could we look at? So those are some things that that we tend to try and do throughout the PTP when we're looking at activities. So it can be developed earlier. If you have a student who has more significant needs, I've developed them as early as 5th grade, but we can do it earlier if we need to. So just know that I'm a resource for you, even though some of this is talking about, middle school, high school, and beyond 18. I do also work with students who are younger than that as well. I'm going to see if you can click on that link there, Tim, to see if that's a possibility for you to bring that up. Yep, yay. So this is the PTP website that we as educators access. We have logins that we use and we go into this website. So if you could scroll down, Tim, for me. There is a PTP, let's see. If you can click on the services, the transition services. So this is open and accessible to anybody who goes to the website. So you may hear terms called pre-ETS, and that's pre-employment transition services. And these are the areas that we look at in the PTP. So we look at job exploration counseling services. We look at work-based learning experiences. We want to also look at post-secondary higher education related services, work readiness services, and then we also look at instruction and self-advocacy because those things are very, very important. So with the work readiness, some of it is social and independent living skills that are focused on home, and some of them are focused on in the community. So if you scroll down, Tim, for me, each of those areas has corresponding ideas that are options for us to choose when we look at the PTP. So this gives you a good idea of things that you can look at as a parent, as a student, as a staff member, that you can say, oh, maybe that's something that I should be looking at. There's just ideas. So you are a part of this process. We want to have a dialogue with you. And if you take a look at this, and when we develop the PTP, if there's one of these activities that you really think we should add in, please let us know and we can very easily add it in. The PTP that we share at the IEP meeting is a draft. It is a living, breathing document that can change. So we want to make sure that you and your student and as staff, that you take a look at these things and say, oh, maybe that's something that we should look at, or I don't even know what that is. What is that? Please feel free to ask us any questions about any of these. Thank you, Tim. Okay. So when we talk about transition activities or services, for middle school, we write the PTP from the current year through 9th grade. And again, this is how Sauk Prairie does it. For high school, we write it from the current year through the age of graduation or exit year. So there should be activities that help the student explore their interests and their preferences and their strengths, and that complements the classes that they're studying. Those are the things that are needed for successful transition and to explore other areas of interest. I've had students say they wanted to be a vet. And so we go and maybe we go tour some vet clinics or vet hospitals. I've had students say, I don't think I could cut into an animal, right? So, okay, well, maybe we look at vet tech or dog grooming, or we look at dog training or doggy daycare. There's all kinds of things related to the area of interest. It doesn't have to end up being exactly what they say. It's all about exploration. So some of the things that we also do is we provide job shadows, we provide tours of businesses, we visit campuses. I assist with referrals to outside agencies. We have an agency we work with called the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. And then we also work with the Aging and Disability Resource Center. And the one that we use in Sauk County is based in Baraboo. We have a wonderful relationship with them, and they are going to be doing a Transition Talk Tuesday coming up as well. We also help students volunteer. I've had students volunteer within the high school, within different schools, within different businesses, so that they learn about different jobs. We can help them get them set up to go to career fairs when those are available. I've helped a lot of students practice for interviews, filling out applications. We work on developing that self-advocacy piece. We look at social skill development, and sometimes we tour day service programs and providers for students who have different support needs and maybe transitioning to that when they are a young adult. So the areas that we do consider that go along with that document that I had Tim show on the DPI website are all those areas that are listed there. So if you are working with outside agencies, so maybe you're working with DVR or the ADRC, or you're working with Sauk County Human Services or Columbia County Human Services or Iowa County Human Services, you can let us know and we can invite those people that are supporting you to the IEP meeting. If you're working with Lutheran Social Services, any outside agency that you would like to have included, we can certainly do that. Can you click on that link for me? It might be the same link, I'm not sure. Let's double check. Yeah, so that's the same thing. So I'm just referring back to that document that I showed you a little earlier. Okay, thank you. So here's some of the transition activities that we've done in Sauk Prairie. We have a wellness day, and we work with our students who have modification or accommodation needs to participate in different kinds of fitness activities. We have a ropes course that we do at Camp Wabeek in the spring, and that's for our students who are in wheelchairs or who are autistic, and they need some accommodations. They can on-belay them up to the high ropes course right in their wheelchairs. It's a wonderful activity. We've done that in the spring. We have something called Essential Skills. that works with them to develop some of the essential skills that they're going to need to be on the job. We have something called Job Olympics. We do a job shadow day. We have work experiences, youth apprenticeships. We work with Mr. Talford, who is our local youth apprenticeship coordinator for our school district. We give students work credit if they've been working. We look at volunteer activities, work-based learning. We have a lot of different programs at the high school where students can be involved in different work-based learning opportunities in different areas. There's a Wisconsin Transition app, and I'll share that link with you in a little bit. We do individual job shadows. I've done virtual job shadows, campus visits, virtual campus visits. Thank you, COVID. We've done virtual field trips as well. I do transition meetings with families. I'm happy to meet with you outside of the IEP just to kind of go over things or in preparation for an IEP. I also have done senior transition meetings and high school and college transition meetings. So if a student is transitioning onto a college or a university or a technical program, I help set up the transition meetings in the spring once they've been accepted so that they can then meet with an advisor and disability services if they're choosing to seek accommodations at college. I do testing coordination with the colleges if students are needing accommodations. And then I coordinate with DVR, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, with short-term paid work experiences. And then I also help you with the referrals to the Aging and Disability Resource Center. And that's typically when a student is 17 and a half. And if you have any ideas that you would like me to try and do with your student, just let me know. Like I said earlier, it's just as important to figure out what they like and finding a good fit. We don't want somebody to just go somewhere. We want it to be a place that is a good fit for them. And we want the activities that we do to be a good fit for them. Not every student is going to do all of those things because they don't need all of those things. Next slide, please. So one of the pieces I talked about was age-appropriate transition assessment. So that is an ongoing process of collecting data or information about individuals' needs, their preferences, their interests, as they relate to the demands of the current and future working, educational, living, and personal and social environments. That's a lot. That does not mean that they're going to sit down with a paper and pencil or a computer and take another test. A lot of it is experiences, talking back and forth, trial and error. So those are all kinds of things that we look at, but we want to show that it's ongoing. We're not just doing one talk when they're in 7th grade and then letting them slide all the way through high school and not ever talking to them again about what they want to do, right? So there are some other things that have come to play in recent years, and one of them is the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, WIOA. And then DPI has college and career ready IEPs. That's an expectation. And then there's something else that's come about called ACPs, and that's academic career plans. And those start at age 12. So the counselors in the buildings are working on developing those academic career plans with every student starting at age 12. The post-secondary transition plans are only for students in special education. Next slide. So when we talk about a course of study, it's similar to the transition activities where middle school, we want them to put down the specific classes that they should be taking from the current year through 9th grade, and then for high school through the age of graduation and exit. They should be specific courses. So I think sometimes we might go in and we might put like technology education elective. But we really want to try and be as specific as possible so that you know the name of the class when you're signing up for those classes. And it makes it easier, I think, to plan as opposed to putting down tech ed elective. You know specifically what that's going to be. I think we're okay, good. So we want to make sure that they're exploring their interests and their preferences and prepare them for what they want to do when they're done with high school. So sometimes we have students who take specially designed reading and math classes. If they have the opportunity to take a regular education class with accommodations if needed, that's going to prepare them the best for when they go on to college, for the rigors and the expectations of what they're going to have to do in classrooms. Not every student can take regular education classes, and that's okay. Whatever they need is what we will provide. So high school classes that they're taking, college prep classes, technical courses. We have a program called Start College Early. There's work-based learning and youth apprenticeship. Those are all forms of things that we put in the course of study. I did put a link here to the youth apprenticeship program at CESA 5 if you want to take a look further at some of the youth apprenticeships that are offered in our CESA. So every one of these courses of study should include all the courses and educational experiences as specifically as possible. Now, these are what we anticipate that they will take. It might not be what they end up with, right? Maybe that class is full that year, but then we want to make sure we keep in mind that let's try and get them into it the next year. The thing that's nice at Sauk Prairie High School is that we are on trimesters, which gives students 3 times essentially to take a class if it's offered all 3 trimesters. So if they have more than one interest, it gives them a great opportunity for them to take more courses and explore all their diverse interests. And if a student changes their mind sometime during the IEP and they say, I don't want to do that anymore, we don't have to change the PTP, but we would look at changing like what the classes are that they're going to be taking when they sign up for them. The PTP is a guide, so it's a fluid document, not something that's set in stone, but it really is a great guide for us as we plan for each individual student's need. So we also, one of the things that's in the PTP is a reference to annual goals. So in the IEP that each student in special education has, they have annual goals. The PTP needs to connect to at least one of those annual goals that will help them achieve their measurable post-secondary goal. And that could be a reading goal, right? They're going to need to be able to read at a certain level or understand at a certain level in order to understand the books at college or to be able to understand the content. So just keep in mind that the PTP helps plot the path for the student to achieve their measurable post-secondary goals, but we can't guarantee that they will meet them. We just are responsible for plotting the path. So if you say you want to go to a 4-year school, these are the classes you need to take to get in. Now, admissions at college, they look at the whole student, right? It's not just one part of what you do, but they look at lots of different pieces. But to be prepared, we want to make sure you're taking the classes that you need. So if you do work with outside agencies, the IEP and the PTP should be a collaborative process to help provide a seamless transition to post-secondary as possible. So we like to work with your outside agencies. Maybe they're doing things outside of school we don't know about that would help us to help you explore as well. So with that in mind, if you're working with agencies through the state or the county in which you reside, you can either provide us permission or consent to invite them, or you can invite them on your own. However, you do not have to include your outside providers or support people. You don't have to. But if you would like to, you're more than welcome to include them. The district does need your written consent to invite them if you wish us to do that, though. So we also have a section on the post-secondary transition plan called the age of majority or transfer of rights. So when younger adults are going to be turning 17 within the time frame of the IEP, they and the parents need to be informed of their rights that will transfer to them once they turn 18. That's an important thing. So some families may wish to look at some form of guiding their young adult once they turn 18, and that can take several forms. And those will be discussed at the Transition Talk Tuesday on October 3rd. So here is the link to the Wisconsin Transition app, and I just want you to take a look at it if we can get the link to work. And it's an online PTP that you and your student can do together. So you can access it online, or you can do it on your phone. You can do it on a laptop. There is an actual app that you can download, and it gives the opportunity for you to go through all the parts of the PTP ahead of an IEP meeting even, and talk with your child about what their interests are. And even if they're 5, or not 5, even if they're in 5th grade, right, you can still do that, right? You can talk about what things they are interested in. You can also send a copy of it to the student's case manager if you would like to share that. But it does give you a good guide through the process. So I just wanted to show you that there's the link. And if you would like to look at it yourself, please feel free to do that. It's a great resource. It does take some time, but it is a good resource. So post-secondary education planning. It's never too early to start looking at options, ever, 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 in my opinion. So we have technical colleges. A lot of students in our area go to Madison Technical College in Madison. Some go to Fenimore, to college there. Some students go to different technical training programs. There's diesel mechanic programs. There are diesel truck driving programs. There are 2-year transfer programs. So you could go to Madison Technical College and you could do a 2-year transfer program. So you could do your first 2 university years there and then transfer to a UW school. So there's many opportunities and options for hands-on learning and degrees. There are certificates. Sometimes they're 6 months to less than a year. There's diplomas. There could be a 1 or a 2-year diploma. There's also associate's degrees where they go for 2 years. We also are very fortunate to have 2- and 4-year campuses near us. UW, Platteville, Baraboo, Sauk County is right up there in Baraboo. We have several students every year who go there. There are also the smaller 2-year campuses are really nice. It's a great way for students to start at a small campus. And, because they're used to a smaller school, they start at a small campus, get their feet underneath them, get used to some college classes a little bit, and then they can move on to a 4-year school if they choose to. So Wisconsin also has something called reciprocity with Minnesota state colleges and universities as well. And what that means is that they can pay in-state tuition even by going out of state to a state school in Minnesota. So that's kind of a nice option as well. There's a nice college right across from La Crosse called Winona State, which is a 4-year school, nice small campus, great programs there. And then, of course, there's the bigger state schools in Minnesota as well. So plans to visit campuses, that is really important. I did a link for if you want to look at visiting Madison College or UW Platteville, Baraboo, Sauk County. That's a mouthful, Brian. And then we also have a Start College Early program. So every district has this as an option. Once a student has taken courses in a subject area, they can take a University of Wisconsin or a Madison College class at no cost to them. So if you wanted to do that, say you have your child says, you know what? I'd really like to do that next year. Well, then by March 1st, you have to have your application in, and then they could go for first semester next year. If they wanted to do it for second semester of this year, they would have to have their application in by October 1st. The thing to keep in mind for Sauk Prairie students is we are on a trimester schedule. So our first trimester ends in November, but the second semester of college starts in January. So that's kind of in the middle of our second trimester. So we have to be very purposeful in how we're scheduling students for classes. And your counselor, your high school counselor, would be more than happy to help you through that process. If you want to just click on that link, if we can get that to work, Tim, I'm not sure. It's a school link, and I can share that. It'll be in the PowerPoint when we share it. If we can't get it to work, it just gives you, there we go. It just explains the different programming. So there's the early college credit, there's the Start College Now program, and then so it just kind of goes over, and this is in our course description guide on our website. So these are the things that you would have to do, the deadlines and the policies for Sauk Prairie School District. Great opportunity to take classes. So if somebody wants to be a nurse, you have to have that CNA class under your belt before you can really even apply to the nursing program. So this gives our students that are juniors and seniors a great opportunity to get that CNA license ahead of time, and it gives them a leg up in the admissions process for sure. So next slide, please. So things to consider when you're looking at post-secondary campuses. It's important to start planning and visiting early. A lot of people do it during sophomore and junior year. You can attend Visit Us days that campuses already have scheduled and be part of a larger group. You can go online and look at what colleges or programs and majors and classes that are available. And if you plan a visit, it's my opinion that it's also important to make an appointment with their disability services offices so you can see what kind of accommodations you may be eligible for and learn how that campus wants you to apply for those accommodations once you've been accepted. Always, in my opinion, always visit a program or a campus before you say yes to them, because it's important that you experience the campus and get the feel of the environment firsthand to see if it's a good fit for you. You might not like a 2-year campus. You might not like that it's small. And then so you go to a bigger campus and you can make a choice then. You know what you're saying yes or no to. Next slide. So we are planning 2 visits, one in October to UW Platteville-Baraboo with our high school students. And then we're also planning a visit to Madison College's Truex campus in November for a general tour. And then we hope to go back in the spring to do more specific interest tours. At both campuses, we're going to learn about the campus, the admissions, policies and procedures, and the disability services. And then for our middle school students, I'm going to be working with the middle school 8th grade case managers to schedule a visit to Madison College for them. And so if a student is interested in attending, they can send me or their case manager an email, and we'll get you a permission slip once they're finalized. So how can you help as parents? Talk about your job, talk about other jobs, ask questions of the school counselors, case managers, teachers, community members, visit new places, develop some checklists of things that you want to do. Encourage your child's active participation in the IEPs. It's so much more powerful when they are saying what they want, what they do want, what they don't want. I always say nothing about us without us. It shouldn't be a process that's done to them. It should be something that's done with them. And assist them in expressing their thoughts and ideas. It's hard to sit in a room and there's all these adults sitting around a table. But if you can help them to express their thoughts, that really makes a much more powerful, meaningful IEP development. And become informed about campus visits and online searches. And like I said earlier, have your students make their own doctor appointments, pack their own lunches, do their own laundry, and help them in stages, right? Help them to learn to talk on the phone. Not everyone is going to text or Snapchat or do an Instagram. And in college, teachers do not text their students their assignments. They send them emails. Have them check their emails regularly. It's super important. And have them check on their grades and their progress reports themselves as well. So what are some questions you should be asking your school team? How are they progressing towards their goals? What are some of the areas you feel you need to be addressed moving forward? We do progress reports, right, every trimester, but you can still ask in between how they're doing. What assistive technology needs or supports could my child benefit from? Got to fix that typo. How do we build time into their day to work on non-academic needs? It's very important that we focus on credits, right, as we get into high school, but there's also some non-academic needs that students may have. And how are we building their independence? We don't want them to be too dependent on somebody being there with them all the time. If they need that, that's great. But as they get older and they're progressing into the young adult world, there isn't always going to be somebody right there. So how do we build that resilience, that independence in them to be able to feel like they can do it? And what are we doing to address their functional skill development in their daily living skills, in their vocational skill development, independent skills, functional communication, social communication? How are they getting along with their peers? So building vocational awareness, that's important, to point out other jobs and discuss them. Take your child to work with you. contact me with ideas. Encourage employment skill development within the school environment for them to do all different kinds of things. We can be so creative if we want to be. And I'm happy to help try and develop some of those ideas with you and look at some agency connections as well. So in all, day to day, the most important thing for us, in my opinion, the big picture is to make sure we have happy, healthy person living their best life as safely and independently as possible. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about financial aid for those who have juniors or seniors, or those who have students interested in attending some post-secondary education. We're going to talk a little bit about financial aid. And I did want to just briefly mention, while I have you still, is that Sauk Prairie High School on tomorrow, they are doing the College and Career Readiness Day on our early release day. An email did go out about it with the schedule. And then on Thursday night this week, our counselors are doing a post-secondary planning night from 6 to 7 p.m. in the high school Erie. And there's going to be a presentation there to help parents of juniors and seniors planning for life after high school, college planning, all that kind of information will be available. That went out in an email as well. Okay. So we have Brian Bird. Mike was going to be here, but he had something else going on. So we're going to have Brian do a presentation about financial aid. He has a few slides, and then we'll come back together again and talk a little bit more.
Thanks, Liz. My name is Brian Bird. I'm with UW-Platteville. I'm one of the assistant directors here. I've been with UW-Platteville 23 years. And welcome this evening. I look forward to any questions you may have. We'll go through our slideshow. Tim, do you have that slideshow available?
I do. Just one moment.
All right. Thank you. I do want to let everyone know that throughout the year, there are events called College Goal Wisconsin. So College Goal Wisconsin, they have evenings and some online opportunities as well, where they will invite everyone that wants to come in, fill out their FAFSA, and they'll be there to help those people fill it out. So if you get stumped on a question, they'll be there to help you answer it, and you'll have experts usually from local colleges that will help you fill that out from the financial aid office. So if you want to find out where there's one near you, go out and Google College Goal Wisconsin. You'll have a list of where those events take place and what the dates are. All right, so just to start out then, for the 24-25 school year, which begins next fall, a year from now, the FAFSA is going to look different for that school year. Normally, you can begin filing that FAFSA October 1st. This year, there's a delay, and so we're going to talk about that in the next slide. So just to start out, the FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The application itself is being revamped this year, and that's in response to new regulations and legislation that were enacted by the United States Congress. This is the first major overhaul of the financial aid process in 40 years. That's a long time not to have any changes. The overhaul is going to make the process easier for students and families to complete the FAFSA. This will increase the number of students with lower family incomes who are eligible to receive the Pell Grant. We are estimating that about 15% more students will be Pell Grant eligible for the 24-25 school year as compared to the current year. The maximum Pell Grant for the current year and next year is $7,395. That is a sliding scale, so it depends on your score on the FAFSA. Next slide. So the number of application questions will be reduced significantly with this overhaul. Right now, there's around 100 questions on the FAFSA. They do anticipate bringing that down closer to 50 So a major change in how many questions you'll need to answer to complete the FAFSA. Students will be able to list up to 20 colleges on the application, which is up from 10 currently. So when you complete your FAFSA, it will ask you to choose which colleges you're interested in, and then the Department of Ed sends your FAFSA information to all those colleges that you're interested in. Everyone will need to get an FSA ID to input information into the new application. And so the FSA ID, FSA stands for Federal Student Aid. And so if you Google FSA financial aid, you'll get that site and it'll tell you how to create an FSA password. So at least one parent needs to complete that as well as the student. So you'll need two FSA IDs, one for the parent, one for the student. Also remember, as students, you may have an email associated with your high school. Be sure to use an email that will stay with you after high school. High school email generally will be inactivated once you graduate, so be sure to use like a Google account or a Yahoo account. That'll be permanent for a lot of years going forward. The new application is role-based, and each person will only be able to see questions assigned to them based on their role. So the parents will fill out the parent role questions. The students will log on and fill out the student questions. So as a student, if you log on and finish your part, then you're done at that point, and it just waits then until the parent logs on their ID, completes the parent portion. Once both portions are completed, that's when they will forward that to the schools that you have listed. There's a new process for individuals without Social Security numbers to obtain an FSA ID. So that should be an easier process and be more streamlined this coming year. The new policies will streamline assistance for students with foster care, who have been in foster care, or experiencing homelessness or risk of homelessness. Next slide. So the FAFSA does have a delayed launch this year. Normally October 1st is when we fill out the FAFSA. Because they're implementing these new changes in the overhaul, they're currently saying December it'll be available, but they haven't given us a specific date yet. So sometime in December, and hopefully that announcement will come out soon. Previously, it was October 1st. After this year, it will go back to the October 1st date for each year. So we hope to get back on track with that. And so a lot of our activities or the college goal nights have been pushed back into January and even February because it simply isn't going to be available yet to fill out till December, and we're anticipating that may mean the end of December. So check with colleges and universities on scholarship timeliness and award packaging release dates. So typically, when you are able to begin the FAFSA in October, we may package our new freshmen for that next fall in January or even in December. But because the FAFSA is not going to start on time this year, your college or university may not package your financial aid until a little bit later, maybe February or March. So check with them and see, and also check with them to see when their scholarship deadline is. Because if a scholarship, if it's based on the FAFSA, they won't have those FAFSAs right away to go out to their committees. So their scholarship programs, instead of being due February 1st, maybe they're going to be due March or April 1st this year. So check with them and be sure, or maybe they still are February 1st, so you want to be sure to get your FAFSA done in January and your application for the scholarships in January as well. Check with your individual schools because they can be different from each other. They're not all uniform. Also check with your college or university unique or special circumstances that you may have. And pretty much all colleges have forms, generally online forms that you can fill out if you have special circumstances or unusual events. And special circumstances may be things such as a change in employment or unemployment if a parent is unemployed or has changed jobs and earns less money than they did in the year that you're examining for the FAFSA, they can make adjustments for that to compensate so that you're reflecting your more accurate, timely earnings rather than what it was a year and a half ago when they're using a different tax year. Other things that may affect that is if you have unusual one-time expenses such as medical expenses. If someone had an accident or had a surgery and there's a lot of out-of-pocket expenses, that's something that they can adjust for as well. So check into those kinds of things. And also if you have circumstances where maybe sometimes if there's a parent who has passed away, you want to make sure to report that because that'll make a difference on your FAFSA as well. Or if you have a parent that's unwilling to provide tax information on the FAFSA, and they don't want you to see how much their earnings are, that kind of thing, that's another circumstance that they can take into account when filling out your financial aid award. There will be announcements forthcoming on the official release date of the 24-25 FAFSA, and I'm sure all colleges will be getting that out into the news as quickly as we can. It just hasn't occurred yet, but we anticipate as we're getting halfway through September now that hopefully they'll have that date out soon because we really want to plan our trainings and our FAFSA filing events around that date. Any questions?
I will have to say that the college goal help really has been beneficial to a lot of our students. I think you can take all your information and get there, and it's free help. They'll sit down with you. They'll help you get through it. It's been really good for a lot of our students and families.
A lot of people are almost intimidated by the FAFSA. It's really not that bad. Typically on those financial aid nights, we will complete the FAFSA anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes for a typical family. So it isn't that scary, but it sure helps to have people in the room that have done it before or have assisted people doing it, because some questions just have they're worded kind of not clearly, and people that have seen those before, they're going to know exactly how to interpret those questions. So take advantage of that and go to those college goal activities. Also, if you have questions, and let's say you don't attend one of those, the college you're attending or any college, give that financial aid office a call. They'll help, regardless of if you're going to their college or a different college. We don't ask questions. We will just help you fill out your FAFSA. That's a thing that we want to help students with regardless of what college you're attending.
Okay.
Any questions?
We'll take a look at the chat here in just a second. So we are just completing our first Transition Talk Tuesday. Our next one next week will be the Aging and Disability Resource Center and long-term supports. And we'll also talk about applying for Social Security income. And then the one after that will be guardianship and supported decision-making. And then healthcare for people with disabilities. And the next one would be working while on Social Security. There's the Ticket to Work program, past program benefits analysis. And then our last Transition Talk Tuesday will be about the Sauk Prairie Beyond 18 programs and employment. And then I did share a slide that has how to sign up for them if you haven't or registered, if there's some things that you would like to add in. I did include the links there. And then I also have included my contact information. I do have a new phone number. So if you have my old one, with the renovations being completed at the high school, they changed all of the extension numbers and phone numbers for the high school. So it's a new phone number. For a few months, I think my old number will still get me there or get you to me, but it may take a while for it to go through into the voicemail system. And I have to still check both numbers. So let's take a look at the chat if we can, Tim, and see if there's any questions that have popped up in there.
So far, we don't have any questions that have popped up, but this is a perfect time for you to go ahead and place any questions in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute or raise your hand and we will call on you. So feel free, we have some time for questions. I also fully acknowledge that was a lot of information and that some of y'all might want to look it over after we send out the slides, listen to this again, and then you might have questions and you can reach out to Liz or Brian.
Well, thank you, Tim, so much for helping us tonight. I really appreciate it. And Brian, thank you for spending part of your evening with us as well. And if anybody has any questions later on, please feel free to reach out through email to me. I'm happy to help.
Please be on the lookout. Please
I do
be on the
apologize that we didn't have more information on the FAFSA, but they haven't released it yet. So we really can only give the general information at this time. And we will have more, once it comes out, we'll have more of the specifics. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, that's great. I did not know they were overhauling the FAFSA. A little late for me and the headaches that it gave me for my kids, but that's okay. The rest of y'all, you just benefit from it. That's a good thing. Be on the lookout. We will be sending out the slides along with some handouts. There will also be a link to an assessment, a feedback form, so you can tell us how this went and what are ideas you might have for future Transition Talks Tuesdays. Thank you so very much for being here this evening. Hope you all have a great night.
Thank you.